Money is something we all use and depend for our daily needs, yet its true nature often goes unexplored. So in this video, let's explore how money is created, what gives it value, and why it is not just a tool for trade, but a cornerstone of our economic system. Hi, I'm Amber, your Wall Street buddy, and before we go ahead, can I please request your 2 seconds if you can please like the video and subscribe to the channel, as it keeps the channel relevant so I keep producing meaningful content in the future. Now back to the video. So what makes money valuable? If you handed somebody a random piece of paper which says $20, they wouldn't give it a second glance. But if that paper were a $20 bill, its worth would be unquestionable. Why? Because it is not just paper, it is an official currency. The value of this bill is derived from the trust and the government designation. But there's more to the story than that. You see, historically, money's value was always tied to physical commodities like gold and silver, a system called the gold standard. This meant every dollar in circulation could technically be exchanged for a fixed amount of gold. It was like having a promise that behind each dollar bill, there was real gold sitting in a vault somewhere. Now, this system helped keep the value of money stable and gave people confidence in the currency. But by the late 1960s and early 1970s, the world economy was changing fast. After World War II, the US had become a financial powerhouse of the world, and many countries held dollars because they trusted the US economy. Now, these countries could also exchange those dollars for gold if they wanted to. But here's the catch. The US had printed more money than it had gold to back it up. The promise of dollars for gold was starting to look a bit shaky. At the same time, the US was also spending a lot on things like the Vietnam War and domestic programs, while gold reserves weren't increasing to match the amount of dollars being printed. Other countries started noticing this imbalance and began to worry that the US might not actually have enough gold to honor those dollars. Now, some countries like France even started asking for gold in exchange for their dollars. Now, this put the US in a tough spot. If too many countries kept demanding gold, the US could run out of it. To stop this from happening, President Richard Nixon made a bold decision in 1971. He announced that the US would no longer let people or countries exchange the dollars for gold. Now, this is what is known as closing the gold window, and it effectively ended the gold standard. Nixon did this to protect the US economy. By cutting the dollars tied to gold, he gave the government more flexibility to manage the money supply and respond to economic challenges. It also stopped the flow of gold out of US, which was crucial at that time. However, this also marked a big shift. From then on, the value of the dollar would depend on the trust in the US government and economy, not on gold. This is called fiat money, where currency has value simply because people believe in it. So now that we know that, who prints the US dollars and how does it come to the market? Now, for this, we need to understand the role of the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve, or the Fed, was created in 1913 to prevent financial panics and safeguard people's savings after the major financial meltdown of 1907, when the entire banking system collapsed. The Fed is an independent body that controls monetary policy in the United States, basically how much money is flowing through the economy. Too much money can lead to inflation, when the prices of goods go up too quickly, and too little money can lead to deflation or a slowdown in the economy where businesses struggle and jobs are lost. The Fed's goal is to strike the right balance and keep the inflation in check, while also supporting economic growth and employment. So for people who always say that if the Fed can print money out of thin air, why can't the Fed print indefinite money and pay off all US debts? Well, the reason we can't do this is because it will cause hyperinflation. More money will be in circulation and the prices of goods and commodities will shoot up. Now imagine if you have $20 and your neighbor has $20 and there is only one loaf of bread available. Then you both will bid on it, and chances are you will pay multiple times the bread's actual value, causing its price to shoot up. This is exactly what is happening in countries like Zimbabwe and Venezuela, where prices have gone up crazy and money has lost its worth. Well, to ensure adequate and balanced money supply, the Fed looks at economic indicators like inflation, is it rising too fast? Unemployment, are enough people able to find jobs? Economic growth, is the economy expanding at a healthy rate? Global factors like how are global events like oil prices and international trade affecting the US economy? Now, these factors are tricky, and sometimes the Fed has to choose between competing goals like keeping inflation low or boosting employment. And along with monitoring money supply, the Fed also oversees other banks to ensure they are operating safely. It also acts as a lender in emergencies to maintain the trust in the US financial system. If you recall the $700 billion bailout during the financial crisis of 2008, that came from the Fed. There are 12 regional Federal Reserve banks or central banks which are spread across the country to monitor regional economies. These are led by regional bank presidents. At any given time, 5 of the 12 regional bank presidents have voting power. This power is circulated amongst them. From what I mentioned till now, it may feel that the Federal Reserve is basically a government body, but it's actually not. The Fed framework is actually designed to be independent of the government. This is deliberate so they can prioritize long-term economic health or short-term political goals and can make tough and sometimes unpopular decisions without political interference. Now imagine if some politicians control interest rates, they might want to keep them persistently low, even if that hurt the economy long-term. Now, however, the Fed is still accountable to the Congress, which reviews its activities, and its leaders are appointed by the elected officials. So who manages the Fed? First is the 7th Board of Governors. They are appointed by the President and confirmed by the Senate. They are the brains of the Fed and are responsible for making key policies and money decisions. They serve 14-year terms to insulate themselves from political interference. Second is FOMC, or the Federal Open Market Committee. This group directly manages money supply and interest rates. It includes the 7 governors and 5 regional bank presidents who rotate on and off the committee. So now that we know who produces money, what about the money itself? Understanding how money comes into existence provides a clearer picture of its value. Now, money is primarily created in 3 ways. First is physical money, which is coins and notes. Now, contrary to popular belief, this only accounts for about 3 to 8% of total money supply. Second is digital money created by private banks. The majority of today's money is circulated digitally. When you take out a loan for a car or a house, your bank doesn't just hand you cash. Instead, they create the loan amount digitally, adding to the money supply. This process, called debt-based money creation, basically means that debt fuels much of the economy. Third is quantitative easing. Central banks also create digital money directly, especially during crisis. Through quantitative easing, the Fed injects money into the economy by buying government bonds or other assets. These government bonds are issued by the United States Treasury. They are highest rated bonds, which basically signify that US government will pay off all its debt in the future when the bond matures. Now, while QE stabilizes financial markets, it can widen wealth gaps, benefiting those who own assets like stocks and real estate. For example, during the 2008 financial crisis, the Fed used QE to rescue the economy, creating hundreds of billions of dollars. While it stabilized the market, it also highlighted the growing disconnect between financial markets and everyday lives of ordinary citizens. So you can see that primarily there are 2 modes of money creation: debt and quantitative easing. But is this real money? The answer is yes, but it's complicated a bit. When it comes to debt, a single debt of $100 can put as much as $800 in circulation, assuming everyone is keeping 10% to themselves. So say you borrow $100, you keep $10 and spend $90 on the groceries. The grocery store owner then keeps $9 and spends $81 on fuel. Now if you do the math 23 times, you will end up with $811 with the last $10 to spare. That's $711 of new money created right away. When it comes to QE, it was initially designed for crisis mode and was first used in November 2008. Till then, the total debt in America was $10 trillion. But since then, the government has repeatedly used QE to generate more money for circulation. The debt in 17 years has more than tripled now to $36 trillion as of 2025. The long and the short of it is that the government seems to be investing in itself at the cost of its citizens. Now, this way of money creation has far-reaching effects on society and the economy. Wealth inequality is higher, where wealthy individuals benefit more from systems like QE as they own assets that see the value increases. This deepens the divide between rich and poor. There is economic fragility as excessive reliance on debt creates vulnerabilities. If too many people default on loans, the financial system risks collapse, aka 2008. And there is stagflation risk. Higher inflation combined with low growth, a toxic mix, becomes a possibility as economies grapple with increasing debt. So where do we go from here? As a person associated with Wall Street for 15 plus years, I don't think there is a permanent solution to this. It is not one day we will wake up and the US would have cleared its debt. And we do not also want that, as some debt is a sign of progress. However, as of 2025, the debt to GDP ratio is 125%. It basically means that as a country, our expenses are more than our income, which is a problem. A persistent high debt cycle could result in defaults, especially in social services, Medicare, Medicaid, which can have devastating effects on people who are dependent on them, especially after retirement. But everything is not all dark and gloomy. If you are in your 20s, 30s, or 40s, you can still plan for a comfortable retirement starting today. You can focus on the core basics of finance and still be well off if things do go wrong in some directions. And if your question is, where do we start? Let's begin on that now. Now, welcome to the second part of this video. In the first part, we learned how money was created. This second part is split into 2 subparts. First is the role of your private bank to monitor money supply, so you know how money comes into your account and in your hand. And second part is specific to you, on how you can maximize your savings and investment, so you can increase your net worth and save money for your short-term and long-term goals, such as retirement, while living a comfortable life. So let's begin with how one's money is created. Does it reach your private bank like Chase or Citibank, so you can take it out from the ATM or pay using your bank accounts? Till now, we know that the central bank acts as the heart of the economic system, pumping money into the economy to keep everything running smoothly. But you and me don't have access to central banks. In fact, no ordinary public does. So how does money go from central bank to private banks? How does the central bank release the physical and digital money to private banks? And what does the central bank consider before making those decisions? So now let's break down this process step by step in a way that's easy to understand even if you have never studied economics. The central bank plays two major roles: providing digital money, which as we know is the majority of money in today's economy, and issuing physical currency, basically coins and notes that still play a vital role in daily transactions. So here's how the process works. The central bank releases digital money to private banks in three ways. First is through bank reserves. The private banks maintain accounts with central bank similar to how you and I have savings account with the banks. But these accounts hold reserves, which are essentially digital dollars. This reserve requirement is controlled by the Fed. It's also called fractional reserve banking, which basically means how much of deposits private banks need to maintain as reserves with the central bank. Currently, it's at zero. In fact, it was made zero after 2020. So private banks are free to lend out all of their customer deposits as loans to clients, creating more digital money. Second is through open market operations, or OMO. The central bank releases digital money into the economy primarily through OMO. For example, it buys government securities like bonds from private banks and credits the bank's reserves account with the new digital money. And third is through lending. Sometimes private banks borrow directly from central bank through mechanisms like discount window or repurchase agreements for financing their short-term liquidity needs. Now, coming to physical currency, the central bank releases these upon the bank's request. For example, during holiday seasons, private banks may request more cash to ensure their ATMs are stocked. The central bank will then deliver the cash to their regional distribution centers, which will then pass it on to the private banks, or it can directly send the money to private banks as well. When the private banks takes physical cash, their digital reserves at the central bank are reduced by an equivalent amount. This ensures that the total supply of money remains balanced. So what are the factors that a central bank considers before releasing money? The central bank doesn't just hand out money like candy during Halloween. It carefully evaluates a range of factors to ensure that the economy remains stable and healthy. Factors like inflation and price stability, economic growth, banking system liquidity, interest rates, government debt and fiscal policy, and international considerations. Now, all these factors are considered before pumping money to private banks. Now, one of the most common questions people ask is, what is the correlation of interest rates with the money supply and inflation? Well, interest rates are like an economic throttle. When the Fed keeps interest rates low, it sets off a chain reaction that impacts private banks and ultimately the everyday lives of the public. The interest rate that the Fed sets is like a benchmark. It's the rate at which banks borrow from each other or from the Fed itself. When this rate is low, it becomes cheaper for banks to borrow money. And what do they do with that borrowed money? They lend it out to people and businesses at lower rates too. So if you ever wondered why mortgage rates, car loans, or credit card interest seem to drop during certain times, it's likely because of a low Fed rate. For private banks, lower rates mean they attract more borrowers because loans are more affordable. This leads to more money circulating in the economy. Businesses might take loans to expand, people might buy homes, and overall economic activity tends to pick up. Now, if you recall, during COVID, the Fed had reduced the interest to just 0.25%, which was one of the lowest in the history of the Fed. Now, the Fed did this to boost the economy as the businesses were closed and the economy was suffering. The lower rates created a boost in real estate market where everyone was trying to outbid one another for a house as mortgage rates were around 2.6%. But this did not last for a long time as borrowings coupled with multiple stimulation packages put too much money in circulation. So in order to curb inflation, the Fed started to jack up rates from 2023 onwards, with the peak reaching of almost 8% as of October 2023. Now, as I make this video as of January of 2025, the mortgage rates are still around 7%, a far cry from what it was in 2021. Now, for the public, low interest rates can feel like a mixed bag. On the one hand, borrowing is easier and cheaper, great if you're buying a home or starting a business. On the other hand, if you're trying to save money, low rates mean you'll earn less interest on savings and fixed deposits. So essentially, you can see that the Fed's interest rate policy is like a lever to adjust the economy's speed, encouraging spending and investments during slowdowns, but also carrying trade-offs like reduced savings returns. So with that, let's change our focus to you. Till now we have discussed that the Fed can print money out of thin air, and the value of money is based on the trust in the US government. Now, while we may not be able to control how money is printed or its value on a global scale, what we can control is how we manage and protect our own financial future. So in this section of the video, we will walk through some of the basics of financial literacy. Now, it doesn't matter if you're just starting out or already saving. These principles will help you plan, protect, and grow your money, whether your goals are short-term or long-term.
Now, the first step to financial security is knowing your financial situation, which starts by knowing your net worth. Now, why is knowing your net worth so important? Now, think of your net worth as your financial report card. It's a snapshot of where you stand financially, showing you the difference between what you own and what you owe. Now, calculating your net worth is important because it helps you understand your financial health and track your progress over time. So, what is net worth? Net worth is simple. It's everything you own, which is your assets, minus everything you owe, which is your liabilities. If your assets are greater than your liabilities, then you have a positive net worth. That's great news. If your liabilities are greater than your assets, then you have a negative net worth. Now, don't panic if you have a negative net worth. This is more common than you might think, especially when you're starting out. What matters is taking steps to improve it over time. Now, let's start with assets. Assets are everything you own that has value. These include cash and savings, which is basically money in your checking, savings, or emergency fund. Investments like stock, bonds, mutual funds, or retirement accounts like 401k or IRA. Property like a home, land, or any other real estate you own. Valuable items, things like cars, jewelry, or art, or any other assets. This can include like a business you own or money owed to you. Now, how to find your assets? Make a list of everything you own that has monetary value. Check your bank account balances, investment portfolios, or any documents related to property or valuables. Estimate the current market value of each item. For example, what could you sell your car for today, not what you paid for it originally? Step 2 is moving on to liabilities. Liabilities are what you owe, basically your debts and financial obligations. These include your credit card balances, that is, any outstanding balances on your credit cards. Your loans, this can be student loans, car loans, or personal loans. Your mortgage, the amount you still owe on your home. And other debts, things like medical bills, unpaid taxes, or money borrowed from friends and family. So, how to find your liabilities? Check your loan statements, credit card bills, or any other records showing what you owe. Note the total amounts you still need to pay off. Now, it's important to list down all your debts. Be honest with yourself here, don't leave anything out. Step 3 is calculate your net worth. Now that you have your assets and liabilities, calculating your net worth is simple. Add up the total value of your assets, add up the total value of your liabilities, subtract your liabilities from your assets, and then your net worth. Now you can do this on any Excel spreadsheet, but I've linked the Excel version that I've used in this video in the description of this video. If you want, you can use that. You can download it and use that. It's completely free. Now, looking at an example, if you own $50,000 in assets and owe $20,000 in liabilities, your net worth is $30,000. If you have $15,000 in assets and owe $20,000, your net worth is negative $5,000. Now that we have calculated the net worth, it's time to analyze and set your goals to improve it. Improving your net worth is what will give you more financial security. So if your net worth is positive, basically if you have more assets than liabilities, then congratulations, you are in the 70th percentile of the US population. If your net worth is negative, then don't worry. This next segment will help you improve your net worth. Now, on a side note, I generally don't give heed to statistical numbers published by the Federal Reserve. But if you want to compare your net worth to the median American by age group, then the numbers are here. Now, be careful not to consider average as a few billionaires in that age range distort the numbers. Also, I did a detailed video on this specific topic where I cover all aspects of net worth by age. The link is in the description of this video. Okay, now with the numbers behind us, how can you improve your net worth? Since net worth is a mathematical equation where one side is assets and other side is liabilities, it means you either increase your assets or reduce your liabilities. Now, some ways you can do this is by reducing your debt, paying off high interest loans and avoiding unnecessary borrowing, saving more, building an emergency fund and contributing to savings or retirement accounts, investing wisely, starting small if you're new to investing, but letting your money grow through smart investments, and being realistic, not comparing yourself to others, focus on your own progress. That said, let's look at how you can reduce your debt in a way that's easy to manage. So moving on to phase 3 of this video, let's discuss how we can increase your net worth by paying off your debt first. Now, debt can feel like a heavy weight holding you back from your financial freedom. I once read a quote that debt is the worst kind of poverty, for it leaves you owning even your freedom. And that struck hard. When you are in debt, you don't realize that you have invisible shackles on that tie you to your job, to a compromised lifestyle, and reduces the quality of your life significantly. But here is the good news. You can tackle it with a smart plan and determination, and with your existing income sources. As a banker that has been involved with money all my professional life, I help in guiding people on proven strategies to get out of debt faster and more efficiently. Whether you're dealing with credit card balances or personal loans or mortgage, these principles apply to all kinds of loans. So in this section of the video, let's explore the various methods to pay off your debt with easy to follow examples. The first step to strategize debt payment is to list down your current debt position. Now, knowing your loan details are important as it will help you form a baseline of what we are trying to solve. So look at your bank statements, your loan documents, and other statements such as your credit card statement
and write down three important details. First is the total principal balance of loan outstanding. Second is the interest rate. And third is the minimum monthly payment. Now, having this information in front of you will help you choose the best approach for repayment. Now, let's look at the repayment options. In general, there are three fast repayment strategies for loans. First is the avalanche method that targets the repayment of the highest interest debt first. Second is the snowball method, which targets the repayment of the lowest balance first. And the last one is debt consolidation, which basically consolidates all your low interest and high interest loans into one large loan with a lower interest rate, so it saves you a lot of money in interest. With that, let's take a look at the avalanche method first. The avalanche method targets high interest debt first. This method focuses on paying off your debt with the highest interest rate first while making minimum payments on other debts. This method saves you considerable money on interest over time. So here's how it works. Make minimum payment on all debts. Put any extra money towards the debt with the highest interest rate. Once the highest interest debt is paid off, move on to the next high interest debt and so on. So let's take a look at with an example. Say you have credit card debt number 1 with $3,000 outstanding at 18% interest with a $75 minimum payment. Then you have credit card debt number 2 with $5,000 outstanding at 15% interest with a $125 minimum payment. And lastly, you have a personal loan with $7,000 outstanding at 10% interest with a $150 minimum payment. So let's assume that you have an extra $200 per month to put towards the debt. Now you will plan to pay the minimum on all three debts, which basically means $75 plus $125 plus $150 for a total of $350. Since credit card 1 has the highest interest rate, let's use the extra $200 to pay more on credit card number 1. So essentially you'll be making a payment of $75, which is the minimum amount, plus $200 for a total payment of $275 towards the card balance. Once credit card 1 is paid off, roll the extra $275 into credit card 2. So you will end up making a payment of $125 plus $275 of $400 towards the loan. When credit card 2 is paid off, roll the $400 into the personal loan by making a payment of $150 minimum plus the $400, or a total of $550 in total. Now this method is my preferred way of repayment as it minimizes the overall impact of high interest debt, which can help you save thousands of dollars. By focusing on repayment of high interest debt first, you will not only pay less in interest, but you will also get out of debt faster. Okay, so now moving on to the second debt repayment method, which is the snowball method. Now in the snowball method, you start small to build momentum. You start by prioritizing making extra payment toward the smallest debt first, regardless of the interest rate. The goal is to build momentum and confidence, so you eliminate smaller balances quickly. So you make minimum payments on all debt, put any extra payment towards the smallest debt. Once the smallest debt is paid off, you move on to the next smallest debt and so on. Well, using the same example as before, you have a credit card 1, which is $3,000 outstanding at 18% at $75 minimum payment. You have credit card debt 2, which has $5,000 outstanding at 15% interest and $125 minimum payment. And then you have personal loan of $7,000 at 10% interest with a $150 minimum payment. Now, assuming you have an extra $200 per month to put towards debt, you start by paying the minimum of $75 plus $125 plus $150 for a total of $350. Then you use the extra $200 on credit card 1, which has the smallest balance. So essentially you are making a payment of $275 towards it. Once credit card 1 is paid off, you roll the extra $275 into credit card 2, making a payment of $400. After credit card 2 is paid off, you roll the $400 into your personal loan, making a payment of $550. Now, while the snowball method may cost slightly more in interest, the psychological wins of paying off small debts quickly can help you keep motivated. Moving on to a third and last debt repayment strategy, which is debt consolidation. If you have multiple high interest debts, you can consider consolidating them into a single loan with a lower interest rate. This simplifies payments and can help you save money on interest. The way it works is that you consolidate the principal balance of all loans outstanding, then apply for a personal loan or a balance transfer credit card with a low or a 0% rate. Then you use the loan or the transfer to pay off all your debts and then focus on repaying the new personal loan or balance transfer. So say for example, you have $15,000 in debt spread across 3 credit cards with an average interest rate of 18%. By consolidating them into a personal loan at 10%, you can save money on interest and simplify your payments into one monthly bill. Now, debt consolidation is not offered by all banks, but if you are interested, these are the list of some of the banks that offer them at the preferable terms. So till now you probably think, hey Amber, this is good if I have a bunch of small loans. But what about my mortgage? My mortgage is $400,000 for 30 years. How can I possibly pay this early? Well, for starters, I agree with you. Buying a home is probably one of the most expensive purchases we will ever do in our life. And mortgages last 3 decades. Not only that, here is the thing about mortgage. At the start of it, up to 80% of your payment amount can go towards the interest repayment of your home.
So if you have a loan of say $400,000 at 7%, you can see that till 20 years, you are paying more in interest than principal. And since interest is calculated on the pending loan balance, it feels hopeless that even after 20 years, your loan is close to 60% remaining. So the way to deal with mortgage is to effectively target payment of the principal at the start of your loan. Paying off your principal early can save you tens of thousands in interest and help you achieve true financial freedom. So here are a couple of strategies which you can use. The first strategy is bi-weekly payments. Instead of making payment on a monthly basis, split the payment in half and pay every 2 weeks. By doing so, you're making 26 bi-weekly payments or 13 total monthly payments, which by default adds one extra payment each year. This one extra payment towards your loan principal can help you pay off the mortgage 6 years early and save you $131,000 in interest. Second strategy is adding extra monthly payments. Now add $100 or $200 per month to your monthly payment. This works better if you have a high interest rate, say between 6 to 8%. On a $400,000 home at 7%, adding $200 per month on the mortgage can help you save 6 years and $126,000 in interest. Third is making a lump sum payment. Now, if you get windfalls of cash such as from a bonus or tax refund, you can apply it directly to your principal. This can make a substantial difference to your loan. For example, if you apply a one-time payment of $12,500 towards the principal balance, you would pay off the loan 2 years, 10 months earlier, saving you $78,900 in interest on a 30-year loan. Now, I hope this illustrates the power of making extra payment towards your mortgage, which can provide powerful tangible benefits. Now that we know how to manage debt repayment, what can you do to get out of this perpetual debt cycle? Now, in today's world, debt is everywhere. With services like Klarna and PayPal Credit, you have the option to avail of microloans for purchases as low as $100. But this inculcates a habit that is difficult to get rid of as you're tempted to buy stuff with credit that you would never buy with cash. Now, this leads to a perpetual debt cycle and the reason why an average American has a credit card debt of almost $6,500 as of 2024. But there are some strategies that you can use to avoid this. Now, number one is avoid FOMO, or fear of missing out. Now, in a survey conducted in 2023, it was found that social and peer comparison led to FOMO, which was one of the biggest drivers of online shopping. Now, online platforms and ads portray an image of missing out. It's easy to see a coworker carrying a new purse or buying a new watch and be tempted to buy that just to fit in. At that time, just remind yourself of your financial goals and ensure that you're not falling for this. Second is delay purchases with a 30-day rule. Now, I use the defer 30 principle for all my non-essential purchases that are not a necessity but are good to have. Now, each time I feel like buying a new gadget or a new phone that I want but don't need, I defer my purchase for 30 days. The urge for impulsive buying often fades over time if the item is not what I truly needed. Now, use cash or debit card if you feel like your credit card expense is going out of hand. Now, debit card and cash is your money, so spending it frivolously hurts. Credit card is borrowed money, which feels less painful. So use your credit card or cash for banking on the psychological way to get out of debt trap. And lastly, don't fall for microloans for small purchases. If you cannot buy a gadget or an accessory straight on cash, consider alternatives such as refurbished items or buy nothing Facebook groups. Don't enroll in unnecessary debt for purchases that can be avoided. So that's it for this section on debt management. But before we move on to the next section, I want to quickly cover some tips for sticking to your debt plan. Now, as much as you can, automate your payments. Set up automatic payments to ensure you never miss a due date. Now, think about cutting back temporarily. Find areas to save in your budget like eating out or subscriptions and funnel that saving towards debt. If you can, boost your income. Consider side hustles like selling unused items or negotiating a salary raise to create extra cash for debt repayments. And lastly, celebrate your milestones. Reward yourself when you hit key goals, like paying off a credit card or hitting new principal milestone on your mortgage. Well, with this, we end the section of looking at the liability side of your net worth and how we can reduce it to increase your net worth. In the next section, let's look at how we can increase the asset side of your net worth so you are on your path to financial freedom. So welcome to phase 4 of this video, where we will discuss increasing your net worth by focusing on the other side of the equation, which is assets. Now, when it comes to increasing your net worth, the common advice is to reduce liabilities, which, as we discussed in phase 3, means cutting down debt and avoiding unnecessary financial burdens. While this is a crucial aspect of financial growth, the real key to building wealth lies in increasing your assets. Now, assets are the things you own that put money into your pocket, either through appreciation, income generation, or both. Now, when you focus on growing assets, you're not just avoiding financial pitfalls, you're actively building wealth. Now, unlike reducing liabilities, which has a limit, you can only cut so much, asset accumulation has no upper limit. The more you own income generating and appreciating assets, the faster your net worth will grow.
But people often dread investing as they fear that the value of the investments would go down and result in a loss if they don't pick the right investments. But since I'm a banker and I've been in this industry for a long time, I'm here to tell you that there are many investments that are relatively risk-free, which you can start with and then transition into higher risk and return portfolios if you have surplus cash. And the first option of investment, which is my absolute favorite, is index funds. Now, I like index funds so much that almost 75% of my personal investment portfolio is made up of it. But what are index funds? So index funds are a basket of stocks or a mix of stocks and bonds, the value of which is not dependent on the performance of a single company, but on the performance of the portfolio itself. So let's understand it like this. Say you like the Tesla stock. You believe in the company and you think it's a good investment, and after much research, you invest $1,000 in it. While this is a good investment, your risk is now tied to that one stock. If that stock performs well, you make some money. But if that stock tanks, your portfolio will suffer. So instead of investing in that one stock and tying your risk to it, what if you could invest that same money in a portfolio of stocks that are made up of the 500 or 1,000 top performing companies in the US stock market? Companies such as Tesla, Apple, Amazon, and Microsoft. Now, by doing this, you diversify your risk. So if Tesla doesn't perform well, the loss can be more than offset by gains in other stocks or even in other industries within the same portfolio. Now, this is what an index fund is. An index fund is a type of mutual fund or exchange traded fund, ETF, that tracks a specific market index like the S&P 500. So instead of trying to pick the next hot stock, an index fund spreads your investment across hundreds or even thousands of stocks, mirroring the performance of the overall market. This ensures your return over a long period of time is always positive. Now, for reference, the S&P 500 has averaged a return of 10.58% from the time of its inception in 1957. Now, after tax is roughly 8%. Now, since index funds track S&P 500 performance, you can be assured of an 8% return on your investment over the long term. Now, the other most interesting fact of the index fund is that they operate on the concept of compound interest. Now, what this means is that the return on your portfolio gets reinvested in the portfolio itself, thereby creating a snowball effect for your returns. The benefits of compounding are so profound that Albert Einstein called it the eighth wonder of the world. Now, let's take a look at an example. Suppose you invest $500 per month into a S&P 500 index fund, earning an average of 8% annually. In 10 years, the return would be close to $92,500. After 20 years, it would be close to $297,000. And after 30 years, it would be close to $750,000. That's nearly $750,000 from just investing $500 a month. Now, along with compound interest, diversification of risk, and consistent returns, there are some other benefits of index funds as well, like lower cost. Index funds have some of the lowest expense ratios in the industry, meaning more of your money stays invested and compounds over time. The average expense is between 0.2 to 0.4%, which means that for every $1,000 invested in index funds, you pay $2 to $4 as expenses, which is super cheap. There is no need for market timing. Now, instead of stressing over when to buy or sell, index fund investors can take a sell it and forget it approach as investments compound over a long period of time. Third is tax efficiency. Since index funds have lower turnover than actively managed funds, they generate fewer taxable events, helping you keep more of your gains. So that was all about index funds. But how do you actually invest in index funds? Well, the best way to begin investing in index funds is through tax advantage accounts, which offer built-in benefits that accelerate your wealth building. The two major programs offered in the US are the 401k and the Roth IRA account. Now, these are tax advantage accounts that are designed to help you grow your money efficiently, but they work in different ways. The 401k is generally offered by your employer with matching contributions up to a particular amount or a particular percentage. If you're employed and your company offers a 401k with an employer match, you should be contributing because it's essentially free money. On the other hand, a Roth IRA is one of the smartest tax saving strategies available, allowing you to grow your money tax-free over time. So starting with the 401k. The 401k is an employer-sponsored retirement savings plan that allows you to contribute a portion of your pre-tax salary to an investment account. Now, the money is then invested in various assets, typically index funds, mutual funds, or target date funds. Now, the way this works is that you decide how much of your salary you want to contribute. The annual limits set by the IRS, which is as of 2025, is $23,500. Now, since contributions are made with pre-tax dollars, your taxable income is reduced. Now, what this means is that when your salary is due, your employer will deduct a portion of your salary and deposit it into the 401k account. Less taxable salary means less taxes. Many employers offer a match such as a dollar for dollar up to 3 to 5% of your salary. Now, this is free money that instantly boosts your savings. So at a minimum, make sure to invest at least till your employer's contribution is maximized so you can maximize your benefit. Your investments then grow tax deferred, meaning that you don't pay taxes on gains until you withdraw it at the time of your retirement. Now, after age 59 and a half, you can withdraw your money, but withdrawals are taxed as ordinary income. Since the major chance is that your tax bracket during retirement would be less than what you have it now, it makes a lot of sense to invest when you earn more, which is in your prime years, to withdraw when you earn less, which is after retirement, to save a ton in taxes. But now you probably get a view of why everyone should contribute to a 401k. The compounding and tax saving strategies of this investment make it one of the most lucrative investment type out there. Now let's talk a bit more about his brother, the Roth IRA. A Roth IRA or individual retirement account is a personal retirement savings account that allows you for tax-free growth and withdrawals in retirement. The difference between a 401k and the Roth IRA is that contributions to 401k is pre-tax, but Roth is post-tax. Now the way this works is that you make after-tax contributions, which essentially means that you pay tax on your salary and only after that you make contributions to the Roth. The money then gets deposited into various assets similar to the 401k like index funds, mutual funds, and target date funds. Now, since you have already paid tax on your contribution, the growth within the funds happen tax-free, which means that after age 59 and a half, all your withdrawals, including gains, are 100% tax-free, as long as you have held that account for at least 5 years. Also, unlike 401k, a Roth IRA doesn't require to withdraw money at a certain age. This provides greater flexibility in retirement planning. The Roth is a cheat code that everyone should invest in by the mere fact that its gains are tax-free. However, there are limits to contributing to the Roth. If you're single, less than 50 years of age, and make less than $150,000, your contribution limit per year is $7,000. If you're more than 50, then it's $8,000. If you're married and file joint tax returns, then the age conditions remain the same, but your salary eligibility increases to the max of $236,000 to contribute $7,000 as of 2025. Now, as a banker, I always recommend people to maximize long-term returns by combining contributions to both 401k and the Roth IRA account. So contribute enough to your 401k to get a full employer's match. This is free money and should be your top priority. Then max out your Roth IRA. Take advantage of tax-free growth and withdrawals. If you still have money left to invest, then increase your 401k contributions up to the maximum allowed. Now, by using both the 401k and Roth IRA, you balance tax benefits, optimize your retirement savings, and give yourself more financial flexibility. So this was 401k and Roth. But what if you want to invest in index funds outside of employment and tax advantaged account? Well, you absolutely can. You can invest in index funds through a standard brokerage account. Now, there are actually some benefits of investing outside 401k in index fund. For starters, there is no contribution limit. Unlike 401k and IRAs, there is no limit on how much you can invest into regular brokerage account. There is flexibility for withdrawal. Unlike retirement accounts, which penalize early withdrawals, a taxable brokerage account gives you access to your money whenever you need it. You can invest for dividend growth and reinvestment. Now, many index funds pay dividends, which can be then reinvested to buy more shares, accelerating your compounding returns. And lastly, you get long-term capital gains tax advantage. If you hold your index funds for more than a year, you'll pay capital gains tax, which is much lower compared to your gains on your ordinary income tax rates. So how do you get started with index fund investing outside 401k? Well, step one is to choose a brokerage firm. Fidelity, Vanguard, and Charles Schwab are excellent options for buying index funds. Step two is to pick your index funds. The S&P 500 index fund is a great starting point. Other good options include market index funds like VTI or international index funds. Step 3 is to set up automatic investments. Automate your contributions so you don't have to think about each month. And lastly, stay consistent and ignore the market noise. The stock market fluctuates, but long-term investors who stay in the course win in the end. Okay, so that was the least risky way to invest your money. But what if you want to diversify your portfolio and invest more in individual assets? Which ones would I recommend? Well, after index funds, if there are any other asset types that I recommend, it is equities, bonds including treasuries, real estate, and then alternative investments. So let's start with equities. Equities, also known as common stock or shares, are a powerful tool for growth as they tend to provide good returns over time. But when you buy a share, you buy a small piece of a company. If the company grows and becomes more valuable, so does your investment. However, many people believe equities are difficult to invest in as the stock prices can go anywhere. But with the right strategy, you can make money. Some basic things to look out before choosing a stock is the EPS or earning per share. Look at the last couple of years of EPS. If it's growing, then the company is doing good. If it's not, then it's worth looking for the reasons why. Is the company expanding, investing in more research, or is it incurring losses, which is a red flag? Second is the PE ratio or the price to earning ratio, which basically shows if the trading price is overvalued or undervalued. The lower this value, the better. And third is market news. If the market news shows a trend towards prospective growth, then it's worth looking at. So how to invest in stocks? Now, I always suggest investors to invest 50% of their portfolio in growth stocks and 50% of their portfolio in value stocks. Now, growth stocks are investments in companies that are expected to grow revenues or earnings at a faster rate than the overall market. These are companies like Tesla, Nvidia, or Amazon. So basically companies that operate in high growth industries. They have a higher PE ratio and they don't pay dividends, rather reinvest their profits to keep growing. Now, value stocks are stocks of companies that appear undervalued compared to their intrinsic worth. These are mature, stable companies like Coca-Cola and Johnson & Johnson. These stocks pay regular dividends and have lower PE ratio. Now, a mix of growth and value stocks offer both stability and a chance to earn dividends as well as growth prospect from the high growth environment. The third is bonds. Bonds provide stability and income, making them a good counterbalance to stocks. They are essentially a loan you give to a government, corporation, or other entity, and in return, they pay you interest for a set period of time and then repay you the principal balance when the bond matures. So while stocks represent ownership in a company, bonds represent debt, and that makes them less risky but also less lucrative over time. The bonds are far less volatile than stocks, helping you to balance your portfolio during market downturns. When the stock market dips, bonds often hold their values or even rise. They also provide predictable income in the form of interest. Now, there are various kinds of bonds like government bonds, corporate bonds, municipal bonds, and high-yield bonds. Now, bonds are rated by agencies like Moody's and S&P, which is Standards & Poor's. AAA rated bonds offer the highest safety, which is why I always recommend people to only invest in government or municipal bonds because they are generally AAA rated. The returns on government bonds is less because they are stable. If you want to maximize return while taking on some risk, you should consider the split of 40% government bonds, 30% municipal bonds, 20% corporate, and 10% high yield. So how do you buy bonds? Through broker houses like Fidelity, Charles Schwab, and Vanguard. You can also directly invest in treasury bonds through the Treasury Direct website. The fourth is real estate. Now, real estate is a gigantic investment type which can span from owning multifamily houses to short-term rentals to REITs. So covering entire real estate would need a full video by itself. But for the purposes of this video, let's talk about financial instruments that allow you to invest in real estate without physically owning one. The first one is REITs. REITs, or real estate investment trusts, are companies that own, manage, and finance income-producing real estate. Now, by law, REITs must pay out at least 90% of the taxable income to shareholders as dividends, making them a reliable source of passive income. Now, REITs provide steady income in the form of regular dividends that generate positive cash flow for its holders. REITs are also freely tradable, so they can be bought and sold like regular shares. You can buy REITs for as little as the cost of one share on a stock exchange. Now, at the time of making this video, these are the best performing REIT investments. Second is real estate crowdfunding. The crowdfunding platforms pool money from multiple investors to fund in real estate projects like apartment complexes, commercial buildings, or residential developments. You invest alongside others and earn a share of returns. Just like REITs, you earn dividends or interest without directly property management. Now, you get access to invest in projects or property types not available through public markets, and you can get started with as little as $500. Now, there are three reputable crowdfunding platforms that I suggest: Fundrise, Reality Mogul, and CrowdStreet. The last one is real estate mutual funds or real estate ETFs. Now, these are funds that invest in a diversified portfolio of real estate assets, including REITs, property development companies, or real estate operating companies. Now, they combine the benefit of REITs with the added diversification of mutual funds or ETFs. They spread your investment across multiple properties and companies, have minimal management fees, and are available through your brokerage account with no need for accreditation. Some of the good performing real estate mutual funds are these. So, wrapping real estate up, if I was investing in online real estate, I would split my investments into 40% REITs, 40% crowdfunding platforms, and 20% in mutual funds or ETFs. Moving on to the last category of alternative investments. Now, alternative investments are assets that fall outside the traditional categories like stocks, bonds, and cash. They provide a wide range of options such as cryptocurrencies, commodities, paintings, vintage articles, and many more. But the two most important and accessible ones that we need to discuss in this video are cryptocurrencies and commodities. The commodities more specifically includes investment in precious metals like gold and silver, either in physical forms like bars or jewelry, or in the form of ETFs like these two, which are traded on the stock exchange. The commodities are used to hedge against market volatility. They're generally stable in value and in recent years have seen appraisal thanks to the increased demand from investors. If you are in the US and have access to Costco, the wholesale store, I suggest buying gold bars from there as they come with a certificate of authenticity and have highly marketable value. Otherwise, make sure to get a certificate of authenticity from your dealer if you're buying the metal physically. The second is cryptocurrencies. Now, this is a highly volatile asset that currently seems to be rallying out of control and making millions of people who are betting. Cryptocurrencies are digital currencies that are outside of the regulatory purview and hence have no government backing. They are created for the sole purpose that you can control your own money and make transfer of money instant and easy. Now, I have been burned severely by investing into cryptocurrency, so my advice for people looking to invest is to ensure that you do your research. You can buy recognized assets like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Cardano, but I would stay clear of the meme coins as those seem to be a bit shady. The best platforms to buy cryptocurrencies are Coinbase and Binance. You can also invest in Bitcoin ETF to minimize your risk. So we covered a lot in this section. If I have to summarize this entire section in 30 seconds, I would suggest to start your investing journey by maximizing your contributions to 401k and Roth IRA. If you can't maximize, then at least contribute to your 401k plan to the point where your contribution matches your employer's maximum contribution limits. You can also invest in index funds outside of your 401k by opening a brokerage account. If you want to further diversify your investments, then equities, bonds, online real estate, such as REITs and real estate mutual funds, are a good bet. And finally, venture into alternative investments only if you feel you understand it. As a banker, I detest investment in cryptocurrency as it's super high risk. But if you have surplus cash, then invest in a coin you understand. So that's it for this video. The timeline of all sections is in the description, so feel free to navigate to a section of your choice. In the next section, we will discuss how to maximize your savings so that you can budget and save, as well as learn how to manage your paycheck effectively.